Appendix 1 of the Expedition of the Donner Party and its Tragic Fate. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Expedition of the Donner Party and its Tragic Fate by Eliza P. Donner Houghton. Though the mills of God grind slowly, yet they grind exceeding small. Though with patience he stands waiting, with exactness grinds he all. Friedrich von Logau. Appendix 1. Articles published in the California Star. Statistics of the Party. Notes of Aguila Glover. Extract from Thornton. Recollections of John Baptiste Troubaud. In honor to the state that cherishes the landmark, in justice to history which is entitled to the truth, in sympathetic fellowship with those who survived the disaster, and in reverent memory of those who suffered and died in the snowbound camps of the Sierra Nevadas, I refute the charges of cruelty, selfishness, and inhumanity which have been ascribed to the Donner Party. In this appendix I set forth some of the unwarranted statements to which frequent reference has been made in the foregoing pages, that they may be examined and analyzed, and their utter unreliability demonstrated by comparison with established facts and figures. These latter data, for the sake of brevity, are in somewhat statistical form. A few further incidents, which I did not learn of or understand until long after they occurred, are also related. The accounts of weather conditions, of scarcity of food and fuel, also the number of deaths in the camps before the 1st of March, 1847, are verified by the carefully kept Diary of Patrick Breen, one of the Donner Party, which has recently been published by the Academy of Pacific Coast History. The following article, which originally appeared in the California Star, April 10, 1847, is here quoted from The Life and Days of General John A. Sutter by T.J. Schoonover. Quote, "A more shocking scene cannot be imagined than was witnessed by the party of men who went to the relief of the unfortunate emigrants in the California mountains. The bones of those who had died and been devoured by the miserable ones that still survived were around their tents and cabins. Bodies of men, women, and children, with half the flesh torn from them, lay on every side. A woman sat by the side of the body of her dead husband, cutting out his tongue. The heart she had already taken out, broiled, and eaten. The daughter was seen eating the father, and the mother that, viz., the body, of her children, children that of father and mother. The emaciated, wild, and ghastly appearance of the survivors added to the horror of it. Language cannot describe the awful change that a few weeks of dire suffering had wrought in the minds of the wretched and pitiable beings. Those who 1 month before would have shuddered and sickened at the thought of eating human flesh, or of killing their companions and relatives to preserve their own lives, now looked upon the opportunity the acts afforded them of escaping the most dreadful of deaths as providential interference in their behalf. Calculations were coldly made as they sat around their gloomy campfires for the next succeeding meals. Various expedients were devised to prevent the dreadful crime of murder, but they finally resolved to kill those who had least claims to longer existence. Just at this moment some of them died, which afforded the rest temporary relief. Some sank into the arms of death, cursing God for their miserable fate, while the last whimperings of others were prayers and songs of praise to the Almighty. After the first few deaths, but the one all-absorbing thought of individual self-preservation prevailed. The fountains of natural affection were dried up. The cords that once vibrated with connubial, paternal, and filial affection were torn asunder, and each one seemed resolved, without regard to the fate of others, to escape from impending calamity. So changed had the immigrants become that when the rescuing party arrived with food, some of them cast it aside and seemed to prefer the putrid human flesh that still remained. The day before the party arrived, One emigrant took the body of a child about 4 years of age in bed with him, and devoured the whole before morning, and the next day he ate another about the same age before noon." End quote. This article, one of the most harrowing to be found in print, spread through the early mining camps, and has since been quoted by historians and authors as an authentic account of scenes and conduct witnessed by the First Relief Corps to Donner Lake. It has since furnished style and suggestion for other nerve-wracking stories on the subject, causing keener mental suffering to those vitally concerned than words can tell. Yet it is easily proved to be nothing more or less than a perniciously sensational newspaper production, too utterly false, too cruelly misleading, to merit credence. Evidently it was written without malice, but in ignorance, and by some warmly clad, well-nourished person who did not know the humanizing effect of suffering and sorrow, and who may not have talked with either a survivor or a rescuer of the Donner Party. When the Donner Party ascended the Sierra Nevadas on the last day of October, 1846, it comprised 81 souls, namely: Charles Berger, died while in the mountain camps; Patrick Breen, Margaret Breen, his wife; John Breen, Edward Breen, Patrick Breen, Jr., Simon Breen, James Breen, Peter Breen, Isabella Breen; Jacob Donner, died while in the mountain camps; Elizabeth Donner, his wife, died while in the mountain camps; William Hook, died en route over the mountains to the settlement in California; Solomon Hook, George Donner, Jr., Mary Donner, Isaac Donner, died en route over the mountains to the settlement in California; Louis Donner, died while in the mountain camps; Samuel Donner, died while in the mountain camps; George Donner, Sr., died while in the mountain camps; Tamsen Donner, his wife, died while in the mountain camps; Elitha Donner, Leanna C. Donner, Francis Eustace Donner, Georgia Anna Donner, Eliza Poor Donner, Patrick Dolan, died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California; John Denton, died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California; Milton Elliot, died while in the mountain camps; William Eddy, Eleanor Eddy, his wife; Margaret Eddy, died while in the mountain camps; and James Eddy, died while in the mountain camps; J. Fosdick, died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California, and Sarah Fosdick, his wife; William Foster, Sarah Foster, his wife, and George Foster, died while in the mountain camps; Franklin W. Graves, Sr., died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California; Elizabeth Graves, his wife, died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California; Mary Graves, William C. Graves, Eleanor Graves, Lovina Graves, Nancy Graves, Jonathan B. Graves, Franklin W. Graves, Jr., died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California, and Elizabeth Graves, Jr. Noah James, Louis S. Keseberg, Philippine Keseberg, his wife; Ada Keseberg, died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California, and Louis S. Keseberg, Jr., died while in the mountain camps; Mrs. Lovina Murphy, a widow, died while in the mountain camps; John Landrum Murphy, died while in the mountain camps; Lemuel Murphy, died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California; Mary Murphy, William G. Murphy, and Simon Murphy; Mrs. Amanda McCutcheon and Harriet McCutcheon, died while in the mountain camps; Mrs. Harriet Pike, widow, Naoma Pike, and Catherine Pike, died while in the mountain camps; Mrs. Margaret Reed, Virginia Reed, Martha J. Reed, James F. Reed, Jr., and Thomas K. Reed; Joseph Reinhardt, died while in the mountain camps; Charles Stanton, died en route over the mountains to the settlements in California; John Baptiste Troubaud,